Hello, everybody. It's so good to have you here. Hi. We have got Dian Perry here, and I'm so excited. We've got such good stuff for you. The woman is a genius. So everyone, I'm so excited. I was just telling Dian is, and I want to hear the story of how you ended up being an expat like me and what you, so many things I want to ask. So Dian she is a voice actor, a teacher. She's she's probably famous in the US too, but she's definitely famous in the UK. Her name preceded me ever having met her. And she taught at one of my favorite schools over here. And she has an excellent reputation as a teacher, but not only that, she has written a book. And I'm dying for you guys to have a teaser of this, because I read just the intro and the preface, and I almost just kept Dian to myself and didn't let anyone else in, because I want to read the entire thing like right this minute. So we're going to touch on a few things, but first, Dian, how did you end up in the UK, and how long ago?
Okay, well, thanks for having me, first of all, Daniela. I've been excited, been bouncing off the walls all day, which my husband could attest to. How did I end up in the UK? Let's see. I came over in the early 90s to do a sketch comedy show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And that was for 4 weeks. And then I just got this taste of the artist's lifestyle. I mean, I've been doing theater and singing, all that stuff kind of part-time while I had a quote real job. But I got this taste of what like a full-time artistic life would be like. So I went back to my job, my office job as a stockbroker assistant in Oregon. And then my attitude just like fizzled. And so I just thought, I have to quit. I have to go over again the next year and do another sketch comedy show. And then long story short, I met my lovely husband and we got married. And yeah, so that's how probably similar to your story. And I don't have any Canadian relatives or anything that could get me in the country. So yeah, that's how I came to be here.
And you've been here a long time, so because I find Americans, we become kind of a hybrid after a while.
Yeah, I don't really belong anywhere.
Yeah.
I think of myself as worldly, or sort of like of the world. Because I go back to where I grew up, Longmont, Colorado, and they go, "Oh, you got the cutest accent. Where are you from?" And I just go, like 3 blocks from here, They don't, but I don't sound British, and I don't really sound, from Colorado anymore. So we're mid-Atlantic, aren't we?
Do you notice, when I find you might be, I'm sure in your line of work, you're probably maybe better at it than I am, but do you find that you don't know what accent they have on any like movies or any show you're watching? Like you don't notice? It has to it takes a minute if somebody asks you to figure out if it's like.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're not really focused in on that, because I just think I don't know, we're almost accentless, or we're just, I focus in a different place, I suppose, than people's accent. I mean, I'll speak with a student for a while and I just go, "Oh, just realize you have an American accent, don't you?" So yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I try to do the British accent, and I'll do British auditions for people with my British accent. And they'll say, "We said a British accent." I'm like, "That is a British accent." Like, I think they sound the same as I do. I can't hear the difference. So you're here.
I'm here. Thank you.
You're here. You've been teaching. I'm dying to jump into the whole raison d'etre of the book. But first, maybe we should run through the things you most commonly ran. What was your strength in coaching and teaching and your focus before the idea of the book came up? And
yes, okay, good question. I always thought of myself as mainly a character voice actor. Even though those opportunities don't come along all that often. And so I started in the business by getting lots of radio commercial work, which wasn't really my goal, but I figured it was a good stepping stone, because my brass ring was always, get cast in a cartoon. So that eventually happened. And then I kind of started teaching character voice, and that was my main thing. And then, in working with students, we need to start at the base kind of level. So even if someone comes to me and they go, I really want to do animation, I always sort of pull them back down and start with narration, because that just seems like a really good arena. You have longer scripts, and it just seemed like that's a place where you can walk before you start running.
But when you say narration, you're not necessarily talking about audiobooks, are you? You're talking narration.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, because a lot of people think, oh, narration, they mean audiobooks. But when I say narration, that's kind of like the overarching umbrella. And so everything under there is subgenres of narration. So under narration, you'd have audiobooks and e-learning and documentary and on hold and sat-nav and, all of that stuff, English language training and so on. So yeah, narration is sort of like the umbrella term that I use. Yeah.
And so did you focus mostly on voiceover work? Did you also touch on audiobooks as well? And did you narrate audiobooks yourself?
I have done audiobooks. There's a funny story about that, which I'll tell you in a minute. But so after I started teaching character voice for a while, I was doing workshops and coaching, and then I started teaching at City Lit, doing like 5 and 6 and 7 week courses on how to create character voices.
How did you get that gig, by the way? City Lit is like, they get some, I worked with a famous clown, Jerry, I can't remember his name, but he is like a famous clown. I'm just really bad with names.
Yeah.
They have some seriously famous people working at City Lit. I mean,
do they?
The best in the industry. How did you?
Well, that's nice to know. Well, no, because I started just teaching workshops, and I just thought I really like doing this. And then I had a friend who teaches voiceover classes, and so he kind of paved the way for me. But I had to put together a big proposal and everything.
Yeah,
and
they're heavy duty. They are.
Oh yeah, I mean, it wasn't just like walk in and do a course. And I also had to have teacher training, and so I mean, it took a while to get established. But I think I've actually been teaching there since. What do we know? I think, oh my gosh, it's been 10 years.
Wow.
It'll be 10 years this year, yeah. So then I just started to really fall in love with narration, and in working with lots of other voice actors about narration and kind of paying attention to what was going on in I always say that I root around in voice actors' psyches, paying attention, like, why would they stumble? Why did you do it that way? What, where's your focus? And all this stuff kind of started to sift in. And so all these little bits of data, and just kind of developed ways to help my own narration get better. And then I started to think, wow, this really makes sense. So I started then doing more narration teaching. And so now I teach narration at City Lit as well.
Like what ways? Can you think of an example of something that you...
like what ways to make your narration better?
Yeah. Can you think of an example of a lesson that came from all of that changed the way you narrated?
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's see, where do I start? Just getting your focus right. Just paying attention to where you are focused. So here's a really good example. So think about a dancer. A dancer, when they're dancing, does not think about their body. A sculptor does not think about their hands, and voice actors should not think about their voices. And this is the problem that many people have, is that while they're expressing, and we are talking about communication, we're talking about expressing, while they're communicating, they're narrating, they're thinking to themselves, oh, how does this sound? How is this coming across? Is that right? Oh, what does my voice sound like? They're monitoring themselves. And if you think about the communication of narration as being kind of like an energetic kind of link, as soon as you start folding that back in and start thinking about, how do I sound? How am I coming across? What do I need to get at Tesco later on? Then you've cut yourself off of that flow of information, and you are no longer connecting to the people that you're trying to connect with.
Or so the characters, because in fiction,
exactly.
how are you the character reacting if you're thinking about Tesco?
Exactly. But see, this is what happens is that when our minds get cluttered, the message that we're trying to get across or the story we're trying to tell gets cluttered. And so what happens is our audience ends up sort of metaphorically running around trying to put all the pieces together of this shattered message and make sense of them. And we never want to make them work that hard. So it's just been, it absolutely fascinates me what goes on inside. And today I worked with a student who she's done acting, but she'd never done any voiceover before. And I've never heard anyone so clear and so unencumbered mentally. I was just like, wow. So, it is possible, but I can help people. I've seen, sorry, I get so excited about this. Like, I can't actually, I'm talking way too fast.
I'm on the edge of my seat, so you're not.
Oh, you want me to edge of your seat? Me too.
Because my next question is, what about those of us that brains are encumbered a lot?
Yeah, listen. Preaching to the choir, because I always say I'm the owner operator of an OCD prone brain. So I totally get, my thing is perfectionism. I will narrate something and just like, I would try to nail it down and make it perfect. And then
where does that come from? I'm taking you off subject again, but I've recently been hearing a lot of people saying, oh, I can't do this. I'm a perfectionist. I am not a perfectionist. And I hate saying that because people that are perfectionists, when you say you're not a perfectionist, they think, oh, you obviously do shabby work. But I think that perfectionism is, and my great friend said this earlier today. I don't want to quote her in case she doesn't want me to quote her, but that perfectionism is fear.
Absolutely. Perfectionism is, absolutely. Fear. I mean, perfectionism is rooted in fear and anxiety. So it's about, I must get this right, and sometimes it can be debilitating, and I totally get that. But it's just, we have to move beyond that. And so I've developed ways in my own work to kind of get around that. I mean, I'm never going to not be a perfectionist. That's just part of my makeup as a human being. But there are ways when you're narrating to kind of skirt around that. There's ways that you can kind of trick yourself into not being so focused on getting it right. First of all, is trying to understand the truth that there is no right. There's only perception. So
also, the wrongs are part of the art. The wrongs are the good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, but there are ways to trick your brain, and there's something else that I learned, and that is that we have, our brains are split into right and left hemispheres, and the left part of our brain is the logical part. It's where the mathematics are and the language and all of that, and the right side of the brain is our creative side. So what we want to do is when we're preparing a narration script, we want to prepare using our left brain and then switch over and actually communicate through the heart and through the right brain. And that way, you are not really kind of like trying to analyze as you go. And so there are other ways, like, for example, visualization. That's a right brain activity. Emotion is a right brain activity. So if you can focus on feeling your way through a read rather than thinking your way through, that's going to kind of keep that analytical mind kind of at bay. And if you focus on the emotion of it, on the physicality of it, like your body, getting your body involved, then that kind of takes you out of the analytical mind. So it's all about kind of trying to quiet that analytical part of your brain enough so that you can just focus on expressing rather than thinking about the words. There's one more thing I want to say to you, Daniela. This is a really useful analogy.
Yes.
So the question that we have to ask ourselves as narrators is not, how do I wrote it down so I could remember, is not how do I manipulate my voice to sound like I think it should, but how do I manage the energy, intention, and emotion, which will then inform and influence my voice. So that's really the crux of it. It's like, how do I just manage the energy of this? And the rest of it will take care of itself. It's almost magic. If you set your foundations and then just relax and trust your prep, all of your intonation and your emphases and all of that will just sort itself out.
So you do so I've got a thought and then a question. Don't let me forget the question part.
Okay.
So, because I'm an audiobook listener as well. I listen to audiobooks every night of my life. I won't give away my age by saying how long. So when I listen, I can hear when somebody is listening to their voice. I know it in a minute, and the difference is they're in the room. I want the narrator to get the hell out of the room and leave me alone with the characters.
I love that. I love the way you just phrased that. The narrator's in the room.
They're in the
Because
room.
that's exactly right. You can actually tell, because we can sense when someone is connecting with us, or if they're having a party in their own head, thinking how wonderful they sound. And we've heard voice actors all over the place like that. Now I'm going to make my voice sound sexy. And you just think, I'm just not buying that. That's not connecting with me. And when
even
people
the opposite, they get stiff if they think how horrible they're sounding. You can
exactly. But it's just, that's, there's some archetypes that have kind of made themselves known, which I think is really fascinating. So it kind of, all of this data that I've been collecting kind of distilled into 7 main archetypes. So you have the manager, which is like the gold standard. That's what we want to aspire to. So it's someone who keeps their mind, body, and voice in balance. It's someone who, they're not infallible, but when they do go off track, they know exactly what to do and they know why that's happened. They bring themselves back. So the manager, and that's the student I had today. I said, you are the manager. And then you have other archetypes, like you've got the analyzer, someone who tries to mentally like plot their way through, control the read, mark up their script, like every intonation, every breath, and that totally gets you stuck in your head if you do it that way. So you've got the analyzer, you've got the bulldozer, someone who just like speed reads through the script, like they can't wait to get it over with. And you've got the anticipator, someone who is kind of like rushes through until the next buzzword that they can see. So all these, and the worrier and the perfectionist, which, I am. So all these kind of archetypes kind of got, made themselves known. And I thought, this is really interesting. And so there's a really simple remedy for each one of those. Like for the anticipator, it's presence. For the worrier, it's confidence. For the bulldozer, so I mean, all these kind of things is kind of, that actually came to me while I was writing the book. And I thought, well, this is really interesting, because if a narrator can recognize themselves in that archetype, then they can kind of get a handle on what's causing some of the issues that they're having in their narration, and then how they can correct that.
So this was the question I don't want to forget to ask.
Okay. Yes,
just to make sure I understand. You're saying that when you mark up, you're using your left brain, the analyzing. The left is the analyzing, the right's the creative, right? So you're using your left brain to analyze. Then do you mark up again using your right side and just feeling it, or do you use your right side going into the booth? Because I use my left side marking up, and then I go into the booth and I try to go to my right side. The problem with that is if I'm in a bad mood or upset, that's all on the right side too, and it comes right in the booth with me. It sneaks through the door.
I totally get you. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how I look at it, and that seems to be helping students as well. I mean, obviously, we can't change hemispheres in our brain the way we can, change raise our eyebrows. But there are things, like I was saying, that you can do to kind of get that analytical side, just put that at rest. And one of those ways is by setting your foundations beforehand. Who are you? Who are you talking to? What's your intention? I have something which I call the 3 dials, which I found so useful for me, and students seem to be reacting well to it as well. It's like 3 like imaginary dials. So dial number 1 is intention. So what is the one verb? What are you trying to do with this communication? Are you enticing, teaching, training, guiding, seducing? What are you doing? So if you can identify that one word, then it's almost kind of magic, because you don't have to do anything else with it, because it's like you're feeding that to your narration machinery. It's like, remember those, well, you don't remember because you're not old enough, but have you heard of those old IBM machines, and you fed them the little cards with the holes punched? So like as the program, that was like the program. So I kind of think of it like that. If you decide a few things before you get started and kind of feed those cards to your narration machinery, you will instinctively know what to do with that information. It's not like you have to consciously think about it. So if I set an intention for a job as entice, for example, I don't need to actually hold that word in my head while I'm narrating, because I've already fed that to my my machinery. So I just know that I'm going to have the intention of enticing for that particular read. And that just frees you up because you don't have to focus on anything else. Then, so you just like move into expression. Yeah. So what I was starting to say, I think I interrupted myself, was that, oh, no, I did finish the thought, sorry. So what I'm saying about the sculptors, sculptors don't think about their hands while they're sculpting, and voice actors shouldn't think about their voice while they're creating. It's like your focus, that's where the focus comes in, is because your focus has to be beyond the apparatus and just on expression itself. So think about the words and language as the transport vehicle, and then intention, emotion, and energy that's the precious cargo. So that's what we need to actually focus on putting into the read. The words are just the vehicle to get you there.
That makes me think of punch and roll, and it took me a really long time to figure out that people did this, but I don't know, are you familiar with punch and roll?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so punch and roll, in case anybody's out there in the YouTube land, is when you make a mistake, you flub up, you use a bad word by accident when it wasn't in the script or something, you stop and you go back. You start right after it was good, and you keep reading. What I didn't know, and I've heard a lot of narrators do this, is they're like very, very intentional about how they sound when they start that next sentence, and where they punch in, and how long the pause is, and it takes them ages to narrate because they're curating every time they're punching back in. And that drives me crazy because you're ruining the flow of the story. You should naturally have it so it rolls up and when you're going to just talk naturally.
Yeah, I love that word you used. Sorry to interrupt. I love that word, curate. You're constantly curating. I love that. Yeah, because that's what you're doing. I've never actually used punch and roll for a recording. I'd much rather just, what I do? And to be honest, I only learned this like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, is that I'm narrating, I make a mistake, you just do that in front of the microphone. And what that does is give you a great big spike. So then you can actually edit visually instead of listening to all the different takes you've done.
Yeah, I've heard people do that.
That saved so much time for me. But I'm not an audiobook narrator. I've done them, but I don't do them anymore. Should I tell you the story of the last one I did?
Yes, please. I want to hear the story.
It's been a while ago. Now, I never actually was all that enamored with audiobooks. It's really just not my thing because I'm more of a sprinter than a marathon runner.
You see, it's the opposite.
I'm more of a Tigger than a Pooh, if I could say it that way. So in literary terms, I'm more Tigger than Pooh.
Yeah, so but I think you've got a personality type that prefers it.
I think so, yeah. Anyway, but I have done them. So the last one that I did, or maybe it was was it the last one I did? No, second to the last one I did. They called and they said they had this book, and it was chick lit, is what they said. And I'd never heard that term. So I thought, well, that's just a romance novel, right? So I signed a contract, said yes, signed a contract. Then the book arrives, and it's like porn. I mean, it is porn. There's just no way around it. It's porn. So I was like, oh my gosh. And my dad's actually on this call, so he has not heard this story. But I thought, I don't want to do this. How do I get out of this? I don't want to record this. I don't want to record something.
Does your dad have a beard?
Yeah.
He's not looking very happy.
Is he not? Okay. I can't see him. I've had to scroll.
In the details.
I know. I'm just saying that I don't want to record something that I wouldn't want my dad to hear.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I thought, well, I can't be one of those voice actors that breaks a contract. So I did it. I spent a very squirmy week in this booth. This wooden structure behind me is my booth. Really like sweaty week. Anyway, so that's the second to the last one. Then I went ahead and said yes to another one, which was very challenging. It was about 17-year-old pack of girls making a pregnancy pact. They all decided to want to get pregnant at the same time. Anyway, so after I finished that, and I walked across the hall into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror and I said, "Sweetheart, I will never make you do that again." And that was like 7 to 8 years ago. And I never have. The only exception is going to be the book that I've just written. I actually wrote that for me to speak it. So I'm going to be doing that audiobook, which is going to be actually a joy and a whole different thing. But because I'm American, I don't know if you find this, but I always got the books like the, the throbbing manhood and the heaving chests. And, I just always got, oh, here's another Danielle Steele one for you to do. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah,
it's not my thing.
the
But I can
psychological
teach people how to do it.
thrillers the British girls get. Some Americans get them. I'm breaking into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I think I think people associate the British accent possibly with gravitas, whereas my
Yeah.
accent, like the Valley Girl accent.
Yeah, you get to talk about cotton candy and menstruating, right?
So, okay, so how did you see my experience with narrating? I think I've come to the conclusion that it's just basically that I don't like having a boss or being told what to do. And when I'm narrating, all the responsibility is on me, but it's all me. But when you do voiceover, I'm a people pleaser. So I'm trying really hard to make them happy. So you're doing this take and that take and this take. And the focus is on that. And then it's all over really quickly. I know you get paid a lot more. But whereas narrating, I did a bunch of cozy Christmas ones where I just sat in that booth for like literally a month talking about Christmas food and snow.
Nice. Fun.
You know what I mean?
I mean, everyone has their own genres that they really like. I mean, one of my things that I love is medical narration. The harder the words are to pronounce, the more I like it, because it's
Really?
like, yeah, it's like speaking another language. And I remember when I was a teenager reading, because I was a big sci-fi fan when I was a teenager, and I read this book called Journey to the Mushroom Planet, and there was this made-up chemical name in it, and I still remember it's trichomethylbenzocarbonethylene. It's like this totally made up chemical name. And so whenever I do a medical narration, and they're always really nervous. Are you sure you're okay with all the pronunciation things? I went, oh, you mean like trichomethylbenzocarbonethylene? They go, oh, okay, I guess you can do it. So that's something I really like. I like the challenge of that.
You can make a fortune in medical nonfiction. It's a thing.
Oh, no, that's interesting.
Yeah, you tell publishers and you put that on your profile somewhere that you specialize in medical terminology. It's a thing, that and legal stuff and pharmaceutical
Oh, right.
stuff.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure. I mean, my ears kind of perked up when you said you could make a fortune. I was like, oh, and then I thought, no, it's not really worth it.
In the audiobook world, as compared to the voiceover world, make a fortune is you probably just a term.
You can buy some food. You can buy some food at the end of the week. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to royalty share. Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the other things I just wanted to say about the book is that it's a very kind of layered thing, because I actually decided that I wanted to start the book from the very, very basis of the energies of communication. So I actually start by talking about energy and vibration and the actual essence of human communication. How do we communicate? How long have we been doing this? What role does language play? And so kind of start that way. And then we go into the foundations of narration, and then sort of prep and different projects and performance and pitfalls. And then at the end, there's a chapter with practice scripts and sort of like helping people through practice scripts. So I just wanted to say that's kind of how the structure of the book. And so it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It really isn't, because some people are going to open that up and go, why is she talking about energy in a voiceover book?
But it reminded me, do you know The Artist's Way?
Of course.
I have never, ever successfully been able to put myself through that program, but it reminded me of The Artist's Way for us. Like our own kind of like, because of the way you said that you have exercises because the psychological, because that's what fascinates me. And I always say, and people just nod and smile a lot, but you can get all the facts you want from a webinar or a class or a coach. And there are so many millions of brilliant ones out there. And you need all that when you get in, especially audiobooks. And the technical things, it's our job to learn. But nobody teaches you how to face yourself when you go into that booth and you're staring down the barrel of, it's even worse when it's a book you desperately wanted and you love it more than anything. And you're like, I love this book. Why do I feel like I want to like slit my wrists, right? And it's the pressure you're putting on yourself. It's what
Yeah.
you were talking about earlier. Whatever
Yeah.
your mindset is, you're your own, we're our own. And the people, I'm hearing so many people saying, I'm a perfectionist, I'm afraid to, ship, I'm afraid to do this, I'm afraid. We're our own worst
Absolutely.
enemies.
And what you just said is exactly the reason that I wrote it. I never set out to write a voiceover book. That was never I never thought, oh yeah, one day I'll write a voiceover book, because there's so many out there. But once this stuff started coalescing, and I was like, okay, it was like I was forced to, I have to write about this. This is like what I wanted to call the book originally was The Psychology of Narration. But the publisher said, nah, it sounds too much like a clinical textbook or something. So we changed the title, which is fine. But I just was like, I have to write about this because no one is writing about this. No one is writing about what happens inside a great narrator to make them great.
And what happens inside comes straight out. That's
exactly
what we hear.
But this is what I'm getting at, is that whatever, and this is so important, whatever energy we create within gets transmitted through the vibrations of voice and into the ears of the listener. So if you can tell when you listen to someone, if they're actually visualizing, if they actually have pictures in their minds, you can tell that, because it actually it makes the read more three-dimensional. It gives it more depth and more life. So, like, if you ever listen to a friend talk about a holiday they were on, the last holiday they were on, and you can see in their eyes that they're actually picturing it and reliving it, that means that just adds so much more to the story. So there's so much we have to bring all of ourselves, energy and all, into every read every time if we want a visceral reaction from our audience. There is no other way. It can't just be the voice.
And do you not think, and I think you've already touched on this as well, gosh, so much, because not to get too airy-fairy, but the thing I learned becoming freelance was, it's the whole law of attraction and all that, but energy is everything. And for years I've had a should. I should do this, I should do that. And then should's second cousin, have to.
Yep.
And I designed the perfect life and the perfect job, the ideal, everything's wonderful, perfect studio, and I brought with it the should and the have to. And so that's an energy of kind of resentment. And I'm you're not going to do something for the pure love of it if you have to wake up. Even if it's something you love, managing your personal energy, you're saying bring it in the booth and being authentic. And then sometimes it's like, what if the authentic me is a cow? What if the authentic me is like perfectionist, mean to herself the minute she wakes up? You know what I mean? It's hard work. Yeah. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up law of attraction, because actually this book is law of attraction for narrators. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's how to manage all of that. It's how to silence that inner critic. My inner critic sat on my left shoulder for years and years and years and just whispered in my ear, you're not good enough. Whatever I try to create, that's not good enough. That's crap. That's not good enough. And so, she actually looks like Pippi Longstocking. I don't know if you probably remember Pippi Longstocking.
I love Pippi Longstocking.
Yeah, so that's what she looks like.
Mine is named Trevor.
Trevor, your inner critic is named Trevor. Yeah. Trust you to give your inner critic a British name.
Yeah. And he's a total Trevor. And when he starts, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I went through a really anxious time, like very, very low, and I couldn't get him to shut up. It was like the minute you wake up, because I think your hormone cortisol levels are low when you wake up in the morning. That's why people wake up with anxious feelings sometimes. Yeah. So if you're going through a bad time, that's not a good. So I would literally, that song by Bob Marley, Three Little Birds, singing "Don't Worry About a Thing," because I won't let you.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
I won't make you hear me sing because it's quite horrific. But I would literally go saying, don't worry. Shut up, Trevor, drowning you out.
No, I think that's lovely. And I talk about that in the book, how to actually, you have to make friends with your inner critic. Because here's the thing, your inner critic is actually you. So your inner critic is just echoing the self-limiting beliefs that are already active within you. So it's not just like this outside voice saying you're crap. There's some facet within you that actually believes that. So that's why I kind of, like, I'm a character actor at heart. And so I personified mine, turned her into a character, and actually talked with her. Like, look, you little brat, I am creating right now. Seriously, I know that sounds nuts, but I'll be like, look, just let me do my thing, then you can have your say. And she'd be like, you know.
But it doesn't, those are sound basic psychological bases. I mean, it's a thought interruption is like a.
Oh, is that right? I don't know. So you're not going to, like, you know, have me committed for
no, it's an
personifying
thing.
My critic. Yeah, but it worked for me. And she doesn't
bother
me anymore. She doesn't bother me anymore. I go, okay, shut the F up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm working over here. You know, do you mind? So yeah, so I mean, I have been through all of that, and I think that's why I can talk about it and write about it, so that hopefully it will help other people, is because I have been there. You know, I've got such an overactive brain and analytical and perfectionist and wanting to control everything and wanting to get it right and people pleasing and all of that stuff. So, you know, I'm just hoping that, look, I have written a book that I am proud of and that I meant. So I wrote what I meant, and like I just like got it all out there. So all the stuff that I've been collecting over the years, all the information I have, all the knowledge I have, is like, it's all there. Some people are going to love it. Some people go, what the hell is this?
Well, but the thing is, they might be on different parts of their journey, because narrators, I've noticed, are amazing at getting the facts, getting the coaching, getting the classes. I mean, we're like sponges trying to get all the information, but there isn't anything out there telling us how to deal with us. I mean, what you were saying about I said it's, you know, when people have an eating disorder, they're taught to name the eating disorder, Ed. And they talked,
really?
and I think it's partly that same, I might be wrong about why, I can't remember exactly, but it's to do with you're taking it outside of yourself and you can deal with it. And so any hacks like that you can do to, when I go in to record, I do a 15-minute Buddhist chant, not because I'm Buddhist, it was a cool thing in LA, so it reminds me of the good days, but when I was like young and skinny. But I do a Buddhist chant and I scroll Pinterest while I'm chanting. So it warms my voice up.
What does that do for you?
Because I have to be happy. I have to get rid of, as I said, my inner voice is a cow. She is like always telling me how horrible
They all
things.
are. Yeah.
Life is going to end. You're going to go broke. You're going to probably die. I swear, is there a lump on your back? Because I think you could have cancer. I mean, that's what she does. So I go in the booth. I'm looking at Pinterest. I'm looking at visually. It helps me. I'm looking at pretty clothes. I'm looking at houses. I'm dreaming. It taps. I think it's what you were saying earlier. It taps into.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. Yeah, because that's right brain. So anything you can do to get yourself out of that analytical kind of, you know, mental chatter, the better. The freer you are to just express and enjoy that. Yeah, getting into the feeling of what you're saying. So yeah, there's lots of hacks like that, lots of tricks for you to just, you know, you're not going to change your personality overnight. But what's interesting though, when we start tinkering with how we communicate, people have actually had individual sort of personal development, you know, personal shifts, you know. So, you know, you start shifting, you start doing work in your personal life, that's going to improve your narration. And if you start improving your narration, that's going to have an effect on your personal life as well.
Definitely.
So we can't separate who we are from how we communicate, how we feel in any given moment. And that changes from hour to hour, day to day. But, you know, we can't separate that. You know, how we feel is going to seep into our narration. It just does. So if the more we know ourselves, then the more we can recognize, oh, right, I'm doing that thing. A big thing with me is something I call looping syndrome. And maybe you recognize this as well. And here's how it goes. It's a circular system, and it goes transmit. So speak a little, listen, judge, change what you're doing, and then loop back around again. So this kind of like, I'll say a little bit, and then I'll kind of check to see how that sounded, and then I'll speak again, and I'll judge what I'm hearing. So it's just this loop. And so that was a really big thing for me, and I had to actually just find a way to just stop doing that. So it's all those kinds of psychological things that we go through. And like you said, no one is written about that. It's like, why is no one written about that? So I kind of said, I'm going to write about that. So that's what
I think it's amazing, because it's it's not a tangible thing. It's an intangible thing. And that's what drives you so crazy, because I'm a doer. I'm right. What do I need to fix this? And if you can't put your finger on exactly what this is, how do you fix it? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's like, yes, I'm just not in the mood. You can't not be in a mood when you have to like narrate a 10-hour book, and it has to be done by Sunday.
Yeah, but that's why getting to know your own narration machinery is so useful, because I now know, like, okay, I'm stumbling a lot. Why am I stumbling a lot? It's not that there are complicated words. There's nothing in the script that's causing me to do that. Okay, what's happening? Oh, I know what it is. I'm monitoring myself, or I'm judging myself, or I'm so nervous about getting it right that my perfectionist tendencies have reared up again. Oh, okay. So now I know that it's almost like a menu. It's like, okay, I'm doing that. What's my remedy for that? Oh, it's this. And so that's what I've put into the book, is like in the pitfalls chapter, which is like all the common pitfalls, like fading phrase ends, and I can't think of any at the moment, but just like a list of all the things that usually go wrong, and what are the remedies for those.
Because tension shows in your voice as well.
Absolutely. Everything shows in your voice.
Yeah.
Everything shows in your voice, I mean, we're so sensitive. We know when someone is not connecting with us. We've all talked to someone and kind of seen their listening light fade out and their thinking light flicker on. And we know that they've actually switched off of what we're saying and are busy now constructing what they want to say. We're that sensitive, and we can feel the vibrations in someone's voice about whether they really mean what they say, whether they are visualizing something, whether they're really passionate about it, whether their heart is actually involved in the communication. Here's something interesting. The heart actually sends more messages to the brain than vice versa. So we have to learn how to actually narrate from the heart space, not from the brain. That's how we get to the authentic communication.
That's gold. Through
the heart and through the right brain. Here's something else really bizarre that happened. So this is years ago, right? So have you ever watched a TED Talk by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor called Stroke of Insight, My Stroke of Insight?
No.
Wait.
Yes, she's the one that lost. Yeah, go ahead. I think I have.
Yeah, she's a brain scientist. Yeah. And she woke up one morning and she was having a stroke. So she did this TED Talk, which was amazing. Talked about the left and right hemispheres of the brain, which I found fascinating. Yeah. And so years later, I was teaching a class on animation voiceover. And there's this exercise that we do. It's called the 2-column exercise, Pat Fraley's 2-column exercise. And so one column A is like a list of characters. A list of descriptors. Column B is a list of characters. And so you stand in a circle, and one person chooses 2 numbers between 1 and 21. And then the next person has to improvise a character based on those 2 things, like silly clown or crazy professor or something like that. So what I noticed, this was really weird. What I noticed was that sometimes the person would finish their improv and forget about choosing the 2 numbers for the next person. I was like, what is going on here? But they would just kind of stand there looking bemused. And I was like, we need you to choose two numbers. They go, oh, right, okay. So over time, I realized that the people who were deeper into character, who were more like focused on the performance aspect and really like flying with the improv, they had trouble switching over to the other hemisphere to get their numbers. So I realized that performance must be coming primarily from the right brain, like really solid performance, when you're just like Meryl Streep performance, when you're totally present and connected to what you're doing and what you're saying. So, and I thought, well, that's interesting because this is improvised. So I thought, well, maybe it's something to do with that. So I started to apply it to narration classes as well. And so you would expect that people will be using scripts and language. So that would be obviously activate more of the left brain, which is where your language centers are. But it was really interesting because the people who visualized more and got into the feeling of what they were saying, both of which are right brain activities, their performances connected more deeply with the audience.
You made me just realize something.
Oh, please.
Wow. The difference, because if I'm doing a book for a publisher, or if I'm doing a book for a writer who has been like really excited and loved the sample, so I know they're going to be happy, I forget everything when I go in the booth. I'm the characters. I do a thing where they introduce themselves to each other before the book and explain their problem. And so then we all feel like friends.
Good.
Oh, it's so
that's
great.
A good exercise. I love that.
It's fun because then I tape them. And then I've got voice samples for each character. They're talking to each other. This is my issue with the book. But if I have a writer that is hesitant in the 15-minute sample, I always say, I want you completely happy. I'll do another take. But even if they're happy after another take, I didn't realize this. I have a really hard time in the booth.
Because you have like a little splinter that says, I'm afraid they won't be happy.
Yeah, I'm worried the whole time.
That's like, I think of that as a paper jam in your narration machinery. Ooh. And you have to clear that. Otherwise, you're just going to set yourself up to make a lot of mistakes because it just lodges in there. Well, there are ways. There are ways. Yeah, I mean, I can't, No, I
know. Of all, I'm buying the books. Are you kidding?
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant,
I'm serious.
I can't put it succinctly.
You can't go through hours of exercises, and I got the hint reading the first 2 pages that it's the kind of thing that you do need the foundation before you have to work. It's the kind of book that I'm not good at, but I would definitely be willing to do for this, because you have to do the work to get to the end. You can't just read it and understand it. Am I right? You have to No,
I don't think you are right, actually. I think you can, I mean, there are a couple of worksheets which can be helpful. It's full of tools. But it's not like something you have to go through. It's not like the artist's way. We have to go through and I'm saying, okay, you must narrate every 10 minutes. But no, it's not like that. So you can read it straight through. That's one of the things I really wanted. Okay. I wanted something that could be dipped into if people wanted to, but also to just read it straight through.
Oh, great.
And also hard work. That's why but I put lots of sample scripts at the back. And by the way, kudos to my dad who wrote 2 of them for me. Like one technical script about the pre-flight procedures of the Cessna 152, and another one about the PATCO strike. So
thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. So there's lots of opportunities to practice. Yeah.
Oh, that's a relief, because I'm so bad at those kinds of books, but I was definitely going to do it because it's stuff that you can just kind of let it wash over you, or you can dig down deeper. Like I said, some people are going to look at chapter 1 and go, what on earth is this doing? But I swear to you, if you can, let me put it this way, if you can understand and manage what goes on inside, you can affect what happens outside. So in other words, if you can understand and manage your own personal narration machinery, then your reads will pretty much take care of themselves. Honestly, it's almost magic. The clearer I instinctually have felt that. I've just never known how to get there. And also, as part of the I'm not selling the book, people will hear me say when they come on this call, and they'll be like, don't worry, I'm not going to hawk my thing. I work with so many writers in this world. You have something that you love, that you've put work into and that you value and that you did for that reason, sell it. Don't be shy about sell. You've been in the UK a long time. They're very kind of like, don't sell, sell, sell. That book needs
Yeah,
to get in
yeah.
everyone's hands. It's because you're not a used car salesman. You did
I know,
something
I know.
from the
I
heart.
kind of sort of feel like, sort of like, I don't know. It's hard for me to do that because I wrote, it was a labor of love, but of course I want people to buy it because I want
Yeah,
people to actually get something from it and
yeah.
go, oh my God, I didn't realize that things could change in a heartbeat. Do we have time for me to, oh my gosh, it's almost 10 to 10.
Yeah, no, we have time.
Does anyone have any
Lisa's
questions
just
or?
answered. Somebody said, what's the name of the book?
Oh yes,
Available
I didn't say
July
the name of the book.
1st. I'm
Yeah.
going to put a link on the recording on YouTube, the name of the book and everything, and Diane's website, so you guys will be able to find it as well.
Do you know, I should say as well, it comes out on 1st of July, and I was told that you could pre-order in May, but actually in the UK, on the UK side of Amazon, you can actually order it. You can actually pre-order it now. I didn't
Can't
realize
wait.
that, so
I want
yeah.
it because I mean, it feels like the missing link for me personally. I mean, a lot of people are fine. They're like, I just go in the booth and I do it. And I can deal with anything, but I can't if I don't think about it too much. And I overthink everything. And so
Yep.
the problem is I live on a spreadsheet. Every 15 minutes increments is planned. The spreadsheet does it first and then I do it. So when I'm in the booth, I don't have that. And my brain goes crazy.
It sounds like you're very rooted in your left brain.
Yeah,
Everything that you're saying, because you're a thinker. You're a thinker.
yeah,
So yeah, there are ways to get you the main bridges from the
yeah,
left brain to the right brain in terms of narration are
yeah.
visualization and emotion. Those are
Which could
two of
be
the
why
main
Pinterest helps
bridges.
me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That was really interesting that you said that because you're activating that right side of your brain that thinks in pictures. So that's a really interesting exercise for you.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
chanting turns the sound off. The I love this. I love this. I'm
Yeah.
so gonna. So when's the audiobook available?
I'm going to try because, well, here's the thing. I've actually, in my contract, my publishing contract, I have reserved the audio rights. So that's for me to do, for me to produce and get up and running. I never done that before. So I might be knocking on your door going, Daniela, tell me how this works. But I'm hoping to get them to both come out at the same time.
Yes, please. Yes,
Yeah.
please, because some of us always prefer the audiobook.
I think so too. I'm really looking forward to doing it. Like I said, I'm not an audiobook person anymore, but I'm really looking forward to reading my work and
Yeah,
putting that extra layer of vibration on top of the vibration that's already in the words, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
putting my voice to my own words, I think hopefully make it a bit more powerful and a bit more impactful.
I mean, a lot of nonfiction books. I think certain nonfiction books that are very personally written by the author. I think that if the author can manage it, I know a lot of people are like always get a narrator. I think some authors do an amazing job, and it's lovely hearing their voice. But you've got the
Elizabeth
advantage that
Gilbert.
you're an
Oh,
actual voice artist and know what you're doing. So that would be an added benefit.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
not like
I think it's really interesting that I'm going to be narrating a book about narration. And so
yeah,
it kind of puts a little bit of pressure on me because in addition to wanting to do a good job with the audiobook, I'm actually also displaying best practice. So I have to really watch my P's and Q's and make sure that I'm not actually demonstrating something that goes against, I need to practice what I'm preaching. So
well, but going along your theory, you do your best work on the technical bit before you go into the booth, and all you have to do once you're in the booth is communicate your message, and that's all you have to display.
so you're basically saying follow my own advice,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
in a really nice subtle
Okay,
way.
I will do that. Yeah, yeah. No, no, that
Right?
was like subtle as a heart attack, Daniela.
Because if you go in there narrating, thinking a bunch of narrators are listening to me and they're going to judge
I know.
me, guess.
Yeah. Guess what? Guess how that's gonna go? Yeah.
Yep. But
Okay.
I am a big, because I've listened to publisher books so much, big publisher books, and none of the publishers that I want to work with, of course, their books are all perfect, but other publishers, and you find mistakes. Mistakes slip through. There is
Yeah,
nothing you can do to
yeah,
not have a mistake slip through.
I
We're
know.
human beings.
Yeah. I'm
But
in the proofing stage of my book, and I'm actually on the second comb through, and I'm like, should that have a comma? Should that be an end dash instead of a hyphen? I mean, these are, so I'm doing the very best I can. And I'm really glad to be actually involved in the proofing stage, because some of the things, some of the things I changed, and then it was like, they would say, oh, let's change it to this, and I go, no. And then now in this next stage, I'm like, but you didn't, you changed it anyway. What are you doing? So yeah, I'm having to just go
that's
through and
I did a couple of articles for Elephant Journal, and they edit it before they put it out. Like if you go up to the next stage and they like it and they publish it, they edit it, and it's a
but
bit
they didn't
jarring.
didn't run it through you first.
No, I think it's
Oh,
because it's just articles and it's an honor to have it put through the next stage. But
right.
when you read your own stuff and like bits have been edited, you're like, wait,
Oh,
but that's
it's
not what I
like it's like
said.
your child. It's like your child has had an arm removed or
Yeah, they
something.
sex it up
It's
a bit. They make it like
yeah,
more millennial kind of ish. But you're like, but
right.
wait, but
But
that's
that's
not
not what I
right.
meant. That's not what I meant. And they kept wanting to change, like I would say, if you're voicing to picture, which is the phrase, and they would go, and they said, no, let's change this to voicing to the picture. I'm like, no, this is an industry term, voicing to picture. Anyway, so it's
And
all learning,
narrators are the ones that are going
learning.
to be listening to it, voice
Yeah,
artists and narrators. So they're going to know the terminology.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, it's been a wonderful ride. I mean, this all started, I think it was 2018, 19 to maybe 2019, but it has been a really long time coming. I had to actually do a whole big author proposal, and it had to be presented to the board. And this is Methuen. This is Bloomsbury Methuen is the publisher.
Wow.
So this is like one of the top 10 publishers in the UK.
How did you
Um,
just send it to hundreds of publishers ahead of time, or did you just
one,
book your?
one.
Can you believe you're a published? I mean, it's a big deal to be a published.
It's a
I
big
know
deal. I
these
mean, it's a
days
huge
people
deal for me.
self-publish, but this is a dream for many people.
No, I know this is a dream. I always knew that I would be writing later in life, and I always wanted a published book before I was 60, and so I'm just getting under the wire. So I'm thrilled. I'm really happy. So
It's exciting. So, okay, so here's a question, and then I've
yeah,
got another question, and then I won't keep you all night. Um,
okay.
what thing did you work on for yourself that had the most dramatic change that you had to kind of conquer and learn a hack or a way around or an understanding of to get over? What was your biggest challenge?
In narration or
Yeah,
life?
in
In
narration.
narration.
Or you could do in life if you can't think of a narration one.
It's just a perfectionist thing. It's just because it would just take me ages to do a job because I would try to perfect it during the narration and then be listening to myself while I was reading. I didn't understand, that I thought that's what you're supposed to do is like keep an eye on it and control it and manipulate it and, beat it into submission. And then my perfectionist tendencies would run riot during the editing phase, when I'd be editing it and I'd just be like, oh, more spaces here and more spaces there. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that my desire to perfect everything actually made the read unravel. It was actually just sanitizing it and taking the heart and the soul out of it. And so that was a hard lesson for me. But once I kind of learned, oh, I get it now. So if I'm focused on trying to perfect something, that's actually, the more you try to nail it down, the more you try to tighten a read, the less it can breathe. It just can't breathe. And so you're not really communicating with anyone. You're just using your voice to say words in a manipulated way.
You made me
So,
realize because living in LA for so many years and also all those housewife shows, and they all work so hard to look perfect, you literally can't tell them apart. And they look just odd.
Yeah.
And
It's like a mask, isn't it?
yeah,
It's like really thick makeup
yeah.
with like really big eyelashes. Yeah, I know exactly right. It's just, it's like just, I know what you're talking about.
And
Just
then even
this,
young girls do it now on like Photoshop and everything, and like all on social media, and their faces are like you don't like, who are you? You all look exactly the same.
I know. I know.
Really, I could, if everyone started doing that, I could buy one audiobook and just replay it all the time because it'll be exactly the same.
Yeah, you've got to bring your own passion. And here's another thing is that, you know, when you're doing characters within an audiobook, and it was Anna actually that reminded me of this. So you don't really have to create characters from scratch. You just, she, and again I have to say Anna Clements, amazing, reminded me that you can just, you cast them from people in your world or people that, or celebrities that you know, for example, if she needs an American lady, a really strong sort of deep throated, deep resonating American lady, Angelina Jolie is there. So then if you've got this character on page 9 and she doesn't appear again until page 100, she doesn't have to look back and go, oh, how did I create that? How did I voice that? She just goes, oh, right, Miss Jolie, come back to the microphone again,
Yeah, and she's
So
got it in
that's,
her head.
yeah, so I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, Anna's always very quotable. She was the one that said that about fear earlier. She's like,
Oh,
do
brilliant.
you
Yeah.
not find yourself quoting her like all the time? Like, I think she does it on purpose as part of her brand. Like, everything she says, I want to quote.
It's quotable. Yeah. No, she's
Okay.
amazing. I love Anna.
So Diane.
And did you have another question? Yeah.
Yes. This is the penultimate question. I like that word. I don't think it fits, but I really like it, so I use it often.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have a final thought for our YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in 30, 40, 50 years from now? You'll be on your 10th book, and they're going to watch this video, Dian Perry in the early years. Do you have a final thought to leave them with? Words of wisdom.
Oh, my goodness me. I think it's repeating what I said earlier, which is the question is not how do I manipulate my voice to sound like I think it should, but how do I manage the energy, intention, and emotion, which will then inform and influence the sound of my voice. That's like the central core message of this book.
I love that you didn't just tell me to meditate.
Well, there is a meditation in the book, but that's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to want to do that. So I've tried to give enough tools and techniques and things that will be like, you can take or leave what you like. This is just what I know. This is what works for me. This is what has worked with students. Whatever works for you, and I say this throughout the book, if this works for you, great, take it, use it. If it doesn't, fine, leave it. You might find that it's useful to you down the road.
Are you still teaching classes? Are you, because of the quarantine and everything?
Yeah, no, everything's online. Everything's online. So I'm teaching a voice acting for animation classes for City Lit later this month, and then a 2-day narration workshop at the end of February, so the 27th and 28th. Teaching, I'm getting a lot of students, a lot of one-to-one students at the moment. So somebody from Vancouver, BC, someone from Strasbourg, someone from, so they're just like from all over the place. So it's lovely. I'm really loving it, So keeping busy.
I love that. So do you do coaching if somebody needs help, say, with a character in an audiobook?
Yeah.
Do you able to help coach through that?
Yeah. Doing lots of one-to-one coaching in here, and this is my I'm spending most of my time in this tiny little 4x3 space, and then
you're talking to your people here.
I know, once in a while going into my booth as well. But I've been doing a lot of audio description, which I love as well. So that's a relatively new thing for me, and I'm really enjoying that work because it's still
lucrative, isn't it?
It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, it's not the most lucrative, but it's really just a nod to my grandmother. That's how I kind of justify the lower pay because my grandmother was blind. And so I kind of used to do this for her when I was a teenager, when we'd go to New York or she'd come to Colorado and kind of explain to her what was happening on the television. And so this is kind of like, I do this work, not because it's the best paid, but just because I enjoy the work. And it's also kind of a nod to, my grandma.
That's lovely. I did
So.
for your grandma. I did some books for the RNIB when I first started.
Oh,
So
lovely. Yeah, I used
I'm
to
nodding
do
to your
some stuff.
grandma as well.
Oh, nice. They're the ones who would always give me the Danielle Steele ones to do. The heaving chests.
Didn't
And,
they? I got
yeah,
lucky. My first book was Anna Madrigal.
I don't know it.
It's The Days of Anna Madrigal. It's a famous, God, the minute I'm talking and like on stage, I forget every single person's name. I'm lucky I know mine and yours. But it was my very first book, and it's a classic. It's a wonderful one. And I didn't appreciate it or know any better because I didn't know what I was doing.
Right. Well, when we, like Oprah says, when we know better, we do better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always learning and growing.
Yes.
Thank you, Diane. You've left
This has
me
been
with
so fun.
brilliant ideas. And after your book is out, I'm going to try to get you back too, after we've all
Oh,
read your
please.
book.
Listen, I could talk for days. So
And
thank
tell
you
me
so
when the
much for having me.
audiobook's out. I want to hear the audiobook.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to time it.
Okay.
So it's out. But I've got a lot of learning to do because I've never really done anything with Audible and, as far as like uploading stuff. So I need to
The
learn about all
uploading's a
that
piece
stuff.
of cake.
Oh, is it?
Let
Okay.
me know. I'll help you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
having me on. So, and thank you to my family. I'll go back into another view where I can see them now. They might have gone. I don't know. Oh, he's right. Oh, thank you. I got my dad there. And,
Yeah, and everyone is saying
like,
thank you, and that July is a long time away, and they're looking forward to it.
Well, if you're in the UK, you can pre-order it now. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Diane. I look
Thank
forward
you. That was
to it.
awesome.
And I'm going to try to work on my attitude in the booth tomorrow.
Okay. Right brain.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye,
guys. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you for joining. Bye, everyone. Bye, Diane.
Bye.